Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome again to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Great to see you all yet again. Give a second for people to shuffle in here. Getting excited for the end of this year and the beginning of a new fresh year in 2022. And wrapping up another wonderful year full of piano technicians, Piano Tech Radio Hour. So we're streaming now live on Facebook and YouTube. Oh, let me make sure I'm recording here. Okay, yeah, actually, let me get start over there with the recording. So, yeah, welcome everyone to Piano Tech Radio Hour. This is Ethan Janney. We're here every week talking about fascinating stuff in the piano industry, having cutting edge guests talk about what's going on. We just on the heels of a session with Heather Fandrick, who came on, and she talked about the history of the Fandrick family and the Fandrick upright action, and touched upon a little bit the Fandrick Rhodes methodology of addressing piano actions as well. That having been said, we are looking forward to having a future session where John Rhodes may join us and take a deeper dive into that particular technique. And so that should be something to look forward to. I'll give an intro for those folks maybe watching for the first time on Facebook and YouTube. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano and industry masters without leaving your home. And you can find out more about that at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. Each month we feature a lecture from our library that gets added from past conventions that we've had online. So for example, December's theme is, I believe, David Anderson's Pure 12th tuning methodology. And so you can look forward to checking that out, having been added to your member area if you are a member, and if you're not a member, then make sure you get a chance to join. Again, we have multiple levels of membership. You can join just for radio hour sessions, so you always get the direct link to these sessions that you're on today. And you can also view the recordings if you don't have a chance to catch the live session. You can review recordings. Then at higher levels of our subscriptions for Piano Technicians Masterclasses, you can actually access some more of our more in-depth technical content. So that's we have artisan, craftsman, and apprentice levels that you can join at. And get some great content there, and dive deep into the archives at this point, since we've been doing this since 2017, 2018. So today I have something kind of interesting on the agenda. We've had some fun looking back on my journeys into pianos in Peru and elsewhere throughout the world. And so I got a chance to dive a little bit deeper into some content that was included in a blog post that I posted on the Floating Piano blog. And that is when I got a chance to go to uh, Lima, Peru, and connect with, one of the only kind of piano purveyors in that area. So in Lima, there's certainly people who repair pianos and sell pianos and things like that, but there's really not that many. It's really hard to come across someone who has the type of technical expertise that even some of the sort of more basic level of experts in pianos have here in the United States, and that's just access. It's much more difficult to get access to information and other professionals and mentors to learn from. That's part of why I was inspired to create what we're participating in today, as well as Piano Technicians Masterclasses. We can use the power of the internet and streaming video content to bring information to all sorts of people within and without of the United States who just might not have access to things. So that's what brings us here today. So I ran into a fellow, or I heard about a fellow through several people named Frank Anders, and he has a piano shop called Anders Piano, and that's actually a family business that's been around for many, many years. And so what I thought I'd do today is I'll grab a link to the actual blog post. I put part of it. I got a chance to put part of it into more of like a slideshow presentation, which I will read through with you and sort of tell the story, which is kind of a fascinating story. You'll get to see some photos that sort of mimic this blog post that I just shared in the chat. And then beyond that, with a lot of these blog posts that you might read on the Floating Piano blog, I actually have additional content that you got filtered out. And so I'll go through a little bit of that with you, just so you can get some more behind the scenes on this kind of interesting story of pianos in Peru. So without further ado, I'm going to load up this presentation and we'll dive into that. And then if you guys have any questions or comments, we can address those. But the plan will be after I read through the presentation, I'll go partly into the presentation, then I'll skip over to the blog post to finish up the story there. And then I'll dive into these photos, and your questions and comments are welcome along the way. So here we go. Let me get a share of my slideshow. And I'll actually, let's see here. Perfect. Okay. And I think I should be able to go full screen on what we have so far. Yeah. Okay. And let's make sure we get back to the beginning of all this. Okay. And let me sort of reduce the size of this thing. Should be good. And get this out of the way. Give me 1 second. Of course, my cursor disappears when I go full screen. And let's get that smaller so it's not in the way. And now we'll go full screen. Oh, that doesn't work. Slide only. Here we go. Play. Okay, cool. Anders Piano, Lima, Peru. 4 generations of German piano heritage alive today in Peru. And this is for our session today, Piano Tech Radio Hour on December 18th, 2021. So Anders Piano in Lima, Peru. Pianos in Peru are not natives. As I pull apart tune and lovingly reassembled them, I realized they're, like me, travelers from a different land. And it made me wonder how each one found its way to Peru. Let me let somebody in here, and we'll get back to this. Both Jose Antonio Valdez and Hernando Torres Fernandez, who I've mentioned in previous of these blog posts, had told me about Anders Piano in Lima. They said that the shop had been family run for generations and is something of an institution. Well, it seemed that if anyone could give me greater insight about European instruments in Peru, it would be the owner of Anders Piano, Frank Anders. And to give you a little bit more detail on that, yeah, if I had talked to someone else in the country and I needed to find some advanced information on pianos, maybe some parts or someone who kind of knew what was going on, or even somebody who had new pianos, a lot of people knew about Anders Piano and Frank Anders in Lima, Peru. So here's a photo of me with the office assistant that I came across when I first visited the shop. Actually, Frank was not there when I first visited, but I eventually did get to connect with him. So how the Anders came to Peru. So I traveled 1,000 kilometers from Arequipa to Lima, where the shop is situated. And on my first visit, Frank was nowhere to be found. I spoke with the secretary, who told me to come back the next day. And before heading out with a plan to return and walking through the shop, I tested a few instruments. And I was particularly enamored with a Kawai Grand sitting at the front of the shop and enjoyed improvising for a good while. And actually, at this point, I'll give you a little bit of a taste of that because I did record some video. Let's head over to the blog post and let's make sure I'm sharing my audio here. Share all that and make sure we're on that blog post right there. So you get a little bit of the sound of this this Kawai I came across in Anders' shop here. So a little bit of an improvisation there. Nothing you may have heard before, but gives you a nice sense of, that piano. It was just kind of, it's always fun to play a piano that someone isn't expecting that you're going to play. So I sat down and was really impressed. The audio quality there isn't incredible, but you still get a sense it's well tuned, well taken care of piano, and he does a pretty good job of maintaining his shop there and keeping his pianos in tip-top condition. So let's check this next slide. So when I came back the next day, Frank was indeed there, and we got to talking right away. He was kind and welcoming as a host, and he gave me a tour of the storefront and his workshop, as well as a history of his family. I learned about the origins of the business, but was particularly intrigued with the continued life that business enjoyed through multiple generations of Anders in that family. Frank had a brochure with photographs and some backstory, which read almost like a myth. And here's a look at that brochure, and when we finish this official part, I'll give you some more peeks at what that looks like. But here's my best translation of that booklet, at least a part of it. Let's let somebody in here. This one small booklet is not truly adequate to tell the story of the Anders family and of its generations, all dedicated to one great passion, the piano. It all began in 1870 with Julius Ernst Anders, who learned his trade in Dresden, Germany, where he went on to work as a technical tuner and piano manufacturer. His son, Alfred, born in Leipzig, followed in his footsteps and continued to work with pianos in Hamburg. In 1907, Alfred was hired by Brandes, a renowned piano house in Lima, and moved there to continue his pursuits. After Brandes closed in 1936, Alfred decided to form his very own piano shop and workshop in Miraflores, Lima. Today, more than ever, it's rare to come across a multi-generational family business. Now is not a time when children take up the trades of their parents as a matter of course. People have so many options now compared to 1870. In the Anders family, continuing the business has never been compulsory. It just worked out that for generations, they all wanted to keep things going. Maybe it's a shared passion for music and artisanship. Maybe it's also a sense of interconnectedness. And I realized I actually missed a little bit of the translation of that. So let me continue that translation and so you get the full story. So we left off at after Brandes closed in 1936. Oh, here's the rest of the translation here. During the mid-century era of military government in Peru, the shop unfortunately had to close. However, in 1982, Alfred's son Ernesto reopened the family shop with his son Frank, who we're meeting here. Frank became the fourth generation of proud technical piano tuners in the family and has continued to run the Anders piano since 1991. Today in Saxony, Germany, where the Anders are originally from, there are still many important piano factories. Of course, we all know this. Frank maintains a good business relationship and friendship with Steingraber and Sohn in Bayreuth. And of course, this is very interesting because when I wrote this blog post, this was 2016 maybe, and it wasn't until we started doing these radio hours actually that we brought on some folks from Steingraber and Sohn and actually started having some conversations with them and learning more about the brand. That was where I got a deeper introduction. So having reviewed this, I think it'll be interesting to reach out to Frank and see if maybe he could join us in an upcoming radio hour. And I'm curious to talk to him about how we've connected with Steingraber and Sohn as well. So here's a picture of his workshop. What's really interesting is he's got a lot of old tools and these are literally tools that have been through generations of his family, which is a very intriguing experience. So I'll tell you this, Frank has a hobby he nurtures outside of Anders piano. He raises, trains, and races homing pigeons. It's something he truly enjoys. It's also something that connects him to his father. His dad raised canaries, and Frank felt inspired by that. Frank still also has and uses the family's antique tools. They're not the shiniest or even the most efficient, but they continue to work hard under his hands. He even makes his own wound piano strings with a hand-driven machine, a true rarity. And I'm sure some of us have seen these piano string manufacturing devices, but I do have some more photos of them we can take a look at soon. And let me get to the actual blog article again, and we'll finish up the story there. All right, so zoom over here. And we got about to so in the Anders family, continuing the business has never been compulsory. It's just worked out that for 4 generations, they all wanted to keep things going. Maybe it's a shared passion for music and artisanship. Maybe it's also a sense of interconnectedness. We mentioned that Frank has this hobby that he nurtures about raising birds, and one thing that he was particularly proud of, which I enjoyed, was his desk. He made it himself, which I know some people have, and including maybe one of us here, made a desk out of an old piano, customizing it with some inset drawers. The plate he removed from the piano hangs above him on the wall, subtly shining like a brassy bird's wing. You can see that there on the left in this photo. And there's Frank here in a portion of his shop. This was, I believe, the second level. He had multiple levels of this shop and warehouse, and this is kind of where he kept, I think, some of the nicer pianos that he might bring people around for a special look at, as opposed to the ones on the first floor that are a little more accessible to the public. So Frank too has a son who has found other interests and passions. It appears as though Frank may be the final generation of Anders to run the shop, unless, of course, a grandchild comes along to the helm. So let's talk about how a piano travels to Peru, and a little bit about what I learned in talking with Frank and others. So there's never been really a piano manufacturer in Peru. In the past, before there were shops like Anders, bringing a piano to this country was no small feat. Families would take extensive trips to Europe, perhaps touring for weeks, shopping for various French, German, or English wares that could only be found in Europe. They would then have everything shipped across the sea, bringing their newfound treasures home, basically in a giant crate or handful of crates that they would put on a ship. Now Frank showed me, and here's an example of one of the pianos that Frank had, an ornate, unique Bluthner upright with an air of history, and I'll have some larger and more detailed photos of this in a few minutes. An air of history all its own. Like the Erard I encountered before, this piano was straight strung, an antiquated method we don't often see. Funnily enough, there's been some recent interest in revisiting this traditional technique. Perhaps, as with the renewed love for old world methods of pickling or brewing, people will explore the lost ways of building and tuning pianos to feel more connected to their work or to the past. There's a nice photo with me and Frank. And there are not many piano technicians in Peru these days, as I learned previously. Frank is one of the very few who keeps the craft alive. And, he and I hung out in his piano shop, and, as we're sort of brothers in pianos, he suggested, hey, let's hang out, let's go get some food. So I thought I'd include some photos on that, a little bit of story on that. So Frank suggested we head out and have lunch together. We decided to enjoy ceviche, a fresh signature seafood dish of the region, which you can see here. If you haven't ever been to Peru, that is one of the highlights of the country. Is the cuisine there is incredible, and partly because they have so many different types of plant life, and even animal life there, in order to make sort of cuisine you really can't find anyplace else. So Frank and I sat and talked for a while, and Frank told me that he feels there's something like a brotherhood amongst piano technicians, and I'm sure we could say a sisterhood or a family amongst piano technicians as well, and that there's a special bond that we all share. Now, based on the story of the Anders family, I think he may just be right about that. All right, so that's the post that I put up in brief, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. But I think the next thing I'll do is I'll bring up some of the photos that I have, just to give you folks a little bit more detail on this story that I couldn't include in the post. Let me bring these up. I guess let's take a look at the brochure for a minute first. Load that. Thought it might be fun to kind of get more of a sense of the Anders piano brand. You know, not much different than something you might find for piano business or store here in the States, but actually, you know, very, very professional, very top end here, very well crafted, and you know, like I said, he has a beautiful story of the Anders piano brand and history as well. This is kind of the full page look at the sort of history that we talked about of the Anders Piano brand. There's Frank down here on the lower left. You know, here's some of his family history as well, images of those ancestors he has, as well as some images of some of the locations, probably historical locations in that story. And you know, you can see this is sort of very, very similar to a piano shop in the US, you know, catering to kids who are learning and taking lessons and so on and so forth, promoting learning and activity and the benefits of playing the piano. Um, it's kind of cool that, you know, again, even though he's in Peru, Frank can manage to offer quite a diversity of pianos. So he's got some great options for vertical pianos. He's got a diversity of brands as well, grand pianos as well. I didn't talk to him about it in detail, but I'm assuming that if someone wants a piano, he can be the facilitator to have it shipped from a different country. However, I'm gonna guess he probably focuses on stocking pianos and selling the ones that are in stock because it's probably much more affordable. Um, Steinhoven was a brand that that was a specialty of theirs. And here's actually a list of various brands that they might represent, which again is pretty impressive. The variety of pianos that they could actually purvey in this establishment. We got Steingraber and Sohn, Petrov, Kawai, Perzina, Steinberg, Kohler and Campbell, Samick, Fazioli, Beckstein, Hassler, Hoffman, Steinway, Bluthner, August Forster, Bosendorfer, Charles Walter, Estonia, Ermler, Seiler, Mason and Hamlin, Renish, Kanabi. Renish is actually interesting. I had never really heard much of that brand um, in the United States, but not only do I see that it's here in this brochure, but it was a brand that I came across more commonly in Peru. And it's always interesting to consider, like, again, how do these different brands establish the locations where they have some presence? If any of you have heard of Renish, you know, feel free to say something about it. They seem to have some very nice pianos from what I came across. And of course, Anders is going to be, you know, probably one of the premier technicians there. He's going to help people producing concerts and events and tuning the pianos and providing the pianos and caring for the pianos. Um, they're also doing, of course, piano moving. I'm going to guess there's not a lot of piano movers in Peru, but I would say you probably could move a piano a lot more cheaply than you can in the United States. It's still relatively affordable in the United States, but um, there's quite a lot of labor available at low rates to do things like moving. So I'm assuming transport is not too difficult in Peru. And of course, Anders is going to do repairs. And I'll show you a little bit more of his workshop that he has there. But he can do quite extensive repairs, as I mentioned in the article. He even had a device so he could create his own wound strings and didn't have to rely on you know, an outsourcer to order wound strings. You know, you can imagine how problematic it could be if you have a wound string, you want to replace it. Now you got to order it from overseas, pay, you know, exorbitant shipping costs and wait a ridiculous amount of time to get it. So he kind of takes on that capacity to wind his own bass strings. And let's see here. This is just kind of, you know, a final page of the brochure, or one final page of the brochure, just to that he gives out, you know, giving people a record of their last tuning. And we've already seen these pages as well. So it gives you an interesting idea of that brand there. And then I'll take a pause and I'll bring up bring up some of these other detailed photos. I see we have a comment here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so Donna Bird said Frank and her second husband, Bill, shared a passion both for music and pigeons. When Bill was drafted to World War II, his pigeons also went to serve. One of his spotted pigeons was retrained and made it through the lines and was awarded, according to Bill, more Purple Hearts than his own 3. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, pigeon like raising and managing pigeons is a very interesting world. There's quite popular among a certain crowd. I know Mike Tyson is actually like a pigeon guy, and he has pigeons that he raises as well. It's pretty fascinating. All right, now I think what I'm going to go to is I'm going to open up some of these images from the actual shop so you guys can take a look at those, and that'll be interesting. So we'll close this set of photos and open the next. Beautiful. Here we go. All right. So, give you a little bit more context on all this. Here's a look at Anders Piano Shop from the street out front. A pretty unassuming little building, but kind of fun. He's got the piano keyboard artistically constructed at the top of the building there. And as I said, there's a first and second level. So when we were looking in that room that had sort of more grand pianos, more carefully organized, that I said it also had the piano plate on the wall. I believe that's basically right inside of this expanse of 3 second-story windows there. And I'm going to guess that this piano keyboard at the top, I don't know that there's actually a floor up there. It might just be a facade. So we walk up a little bit closer to the store. He's got the various brands that they have there listed on the marquee. And of course, you've got your little ads for piano lessons and so on and so forth. I think they had them actually there at the shop, although this might be first an outside resource. And, a little bit more like a promotion of a local concert and piano. This is a pretty fun little ad that he placed up on the upper right of the sign here, kind of a vintage Beckstein illustration. That's pretty cool. We saw one angle of his delivery truck, but here's another one. Get a sense of the ambiance here in Lima, Peru. Guy just riding his bike by. Pretty attractive little truck he's got there. Nothing huge though. He's not going to be doing a huge volume, just whatever he needs. And there's his business card. Now this is an interesting piano. I forget what brand it was, but this is kind of like I believe it's just a smaller piano than typical that they had on hand there. I don't know. I'm not going to count them, but I want to say that's probably more like 64 keys or something like that. Pretty cool. I always like these little pianos. So there's a good look at his shop. So you can kind of see what kind of things are going on there. Clearly doing some more extensive work on some piano. He's got an upright on its back that he's working on. Looks like that might be a piano plate over there on some horses. He's got an action out or 2 that he's working on, or 3, I guess, over there. So a lot of work and a lot of projects going on in there. It seems like it's pretty busy. Certainly plenty of stuff to do. You'll notice here, I've mentioned this before, the climate in Lima is not one that it actually seems relatively comfortable for pianos, put it that way. The temperature and humidity don't change that much throughout the course of the year. So you can see here, this is like the roof of his shop. It's pretty much just open to the elements, just kind of protecting things from the rain, but the kind of air can move freely through, and not typically terribly concerned about the difference in temperature between the outside and the inside and how that might affect the instruments or parts or things like that. So that's kind of cool feature of living in Lima and working on pianos. You can get a sense of that. Here's another angle on things. Looks like he's working on, is that some dampers over there? Can't quite tell actually. Maybe we can zoom in. Maybe upright dampers? I'm not quite sure what those are. Those are definitely some dampers. Maybe that's the same picture. Nope, it's not. It's different. Yep, typical shop. Lots of tools, but definitely interesting that he has tools and things that are. Not only would he not have the ability to access the kind of tools we can just kind of get them shipped in the mail and have them arrive in a few days, but he does have a lot of equipment from his family in multiple generations. Here's a look at the first floor. You see, utilizing space pretty efficiently. Quite a few pianos in here. Another one getting shipped in a box. And I'm actually approaching this piano that we mentioned in the article. I think it's, over here on the right. We'll have a few more closer pictures of it. The straight strung upright that I mentioned earlier. Here's another look at his tools that he has for various uses. And this is his stringing machine. I'm sure most of us have probably seen one of these, but at the time it was pretty cool to come across. And then he's got his raw materials here on the right hand side, so he can actually wind the copper winding around the core wire. And here he's got plenty of plain wire on hand as he needs it. He's got a stand where he's working on some hammers. Looks like maybe he's doing some filing or something like that. There's a Kawai piano that looked like it had been recently delivered and it's getting unpacked. There's him showing me the stringing machine, a little bit more detail. There's that Kawai that's been delivered. And then here's this sort of interesting vintage piano. Beautiful shape, definitely been refurbished in some capacity. And so that's a Bluthner. Yeah, the straight strung Bluthner piano. Very beautiful. Serial number 79674. I never looked it up for the age of it, but that could be interesting if anybody wants to do a quick search. This is a great idea. I don't actually see this much on pianos. You got something to help you carry it and move it around, a little knob installed there. A little bit closer look at what's written inside on the insignia of the piano. Really good shape. I don't remember asking, if you had any history on like the actual refurbishment of this piano or if it kind of maintained a good shape over the years. Guessing it, if it lived in Lima for quite a while, it might have been preserved, again, because of the climate is not too extreme. I'll try to get a look at the bottom there. Not too much light. There's another look at Frank's office area. This piano right here is the one that's basically has a desk in it. Open up the fall board, put some papers in there. Kind of a fun idea. And then over here he installed a drawer on one side so he can have a place to put his stuff and sit, and looks like he lowered the actual height of the piano so it was more desk level. And there he is sitting at his piano desk. And yeah, here's where I'm saying these are like the second level story of windows on the front there, and here's this area where it's basically a combination of his office and some more of the unique pianos that he has for sale. There's Frank hanging out. This is when we arrived that second day, and he's bringing me into the shop. There's his assistant. There's me. There's me with his assistant again. There's me with Frank. I think I have a couple videos. I don't know if they're worth sharing. Oops. Sorry about that. All right, let me see if I've got some videos here because that'll give us a little bit more richness on this particular experience. Yes, I have this one. Let me open these first. Okay. And this one. Yeah, so you can get a little bit of almost like a live action look at this stuff. So I'll share my screen again. Okay, we'll get our video application open. So this is the elevator, I guess, going up to the second level.
In New York?
Yeah.
Just at home. Just, you know, if I want to do some action work or.
Yeah.
But I don't.
You do tunings and.
Tunings, yeah. I do a lot of tunings, a lot of visiting customers. And actually, I'm training technicians.
Yeah.
So, like, right now there are 2, and it's going to be 3 technicians in New York.
Yeah.
That work with my company called Floating Piano Factory.
Yeah.
And we've developed a good reputation for training new technicians and in giving good prices to customers while they're learning. And I also have 2 technicians actually in China, in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and I'm teaching them how to tune via Skype, right?
Yeah.
So I really am enjoying this sort of global perspective that I can have, you know. It's really nice.
You live basically from the tuning and.
Okay, well, so
You get a little bit of sense of us hanging out there and a better look at the shop. Here's this is I gave him my camera, so this is just us hanging out here.
What is it doing?
Filming.
It's filming again?
Press camera button to extend recording.
Okay, you're taking a video of me.
Yeah, I'll take video of you.
All right, that's us just hanging out. There's another one.
Now it's filming.
Yeah, let's take a picture. All you have to do is tell it to take a picture.
Okay, take a picture.
You have
No,
to start
yeah.
over in order to another one.
I thought that one was fun because you could hear the birds in the background. It's not only nice to have a piano shop, musical shop, but to have the birds, you know, like you saw, there's like an open end on the top there of the workshop. So you get the kind of sounds around, and even though it's more of an urban setting, there's some birds singing in the background. All right, I'm going to I will probably turn off the sound for the next few because it's really hard to hear what's going on. So let me just do that real quick. But I'll go through the video a little bit so you can get a sense of what it was like to be there. Let's see here, stop share. I might have a comment here. Donna said, oh, okay, got that. Okay, if Jim said, if the serial number is 79XXX, it's 1909 or so, so 112 years old. Yeah, very cool. A pretty nice piano for 112 years old. All right, let me share here some more of this video. Go to the desktop. We'll get rid of the sound there. I don't think that's necessary. Okay, yeah, but let's take a look at this one.
The one right by the door.
Okay, that's the old one. Yeah, we had some practice rooms here. There's a third one, but we're not using it.
Okay.
You got quite a bit of space there. This is the second level of the
Oh,
place.
really? Cool.
That's the actual
Oh my
elevator.
gosh. So is this only 64 keys?
That's the smaller piano I took some pictures of.
It's Kauai.
It's Kauai.
He's saying it's a
Cool.
Kauai
They
piano.
made this little pianos.
Is it?
Made a lot of
Smells good. Is the action a different type of action mechanism? I
No,
it's the
quite
normal.
same.
It's
Yeah.
the same.
But the Sonic
Okay.
company.
Yeah.
This line. And
Oh, there you got somebody's working in the shop.
we had Perzinas.
Okay.
You know Perzina?
Patina, no.
No. It's a German brand which is made now in Yantai.
He's telling me about Perzina pianos, which
And, we have
which he deals in. Which I think this is the first time I heard of them, but I heard somebody else talking about them recently.
we never sell one. It's when you go for a pizza and you ask for wine
Uh-huh.
and
So it's from Germany?
it's from China.
It's from
The
China.
Steinhoven piano. He's telling me it's a Chinese piano that he deals in.
It's just like
Huh. Yeah.
piano. Yes.
Really?
One, yeah,
Cool.
we do for see makes the effect. Pianos
Like regulation work.
is the other problem. Grandfather, so
Here he's showing me the string winding machine.
one is
Uh-huh.
making this and the other one is
Uh-huh.
string. Yeah? Put the string in here. See?
Do you still use this?
Yes, of course.
Yeah?
Yeah. Then
Wow. Can
see?
how long does it take to make one? A string?
Oh, 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Says it takes about 15 minutes to make a string on that.
It's just for one string.
Right.
1, 2,
Right. Does this piano have strings that you made?
No.
No. Okay.
The strings, the whole set,
Uh-huh.
we buy it from Gregor Heller,
Okay.
Heller Bass
And that's in Germany?
in Germany.
He said he just told me if he needs a full set of strings, which he bought for this particular piano, he gets them from Gregor Heller in Germany.
We use only Roslau.
Okay.
So Roslau strings.
Copper and Degen.
Yeah.
So
That's
Then
it,
you have
something like
Chef here.
Degen or something.
yes, that's
Brand of
from
strings?
was a client who bought.
Who brought those? Wow.
Here he's showing some of his old tools.
What is it?
Exactly.
You don't even know.
Yeah, I know.
You know, but is it for like turning screws or something?
I can show you here. I think we have.
Is it for okay?
It's for regulation.
It's for I know what it is. It's for a
There is a balance on the keys.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, you must have seen that.
Yeah, it's called what's it called? When it's
balance here.
connected.
Yeah.
It's
And you
a
have a screw here.
rocker capstan. That,
I don't know how.
that's what yeah, it's rocker
So
capstan.
you regulate this here with.
Right.
That's a tool
Yes.
for adjusting like the rocker
Those
cap
pianos are
stands that
awful.
he has.
Actions and
On the upright?
yeah. Old pianos. It's quite clever because it really makes. Put it like this. And then the voice is
Got some voicing tools there
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
for side needling.
push this up.
Uh-huh.
It works, but it's so hard in old pianos.
Right.
never used it.
Yeah, probably really expensive.
Yeah. So it's again for
For
collection. Very nice there. It's displayed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And over here, you're doing, this is where you do like a regulation
Yes.
or action work.
Mhm.
Cool.
This is where he does
And
regulation
in
and
here,
action
you're doing
work.
a lot of, like, what kind of things are you doing in here? You're,
Here we clean the pianos, cleaning it, make some furniture, but not very much.
He says here they clean
okay.
pianos and
So a lot,
do
it's
the
like
furniture refinishing.
for used pianos?
Yes.
Okay.
We use pianos because we have the pianos in rental.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come back, they always have some scratches.
Okay.
And we
Uh-huh.
rebuild it, refinish it a bit, you know, so it's like this.
Oh, but so did you refinish this, or was it in pretty
Yes.
good shape?
Oh,
You did.
Oh, here we go. He's talking about this
Wow.
piano. See what he has to say.
and then we,
Oh,
it's an old windmill.
cool.
See,
Whoa!
that's
I've never seen that before.
1890, more or less.
Wow.
You see, this is the one.
Yeah, the rocker capstan.
He's saying that it has the rocker capstans on
So
that
annoying.
piano.
Wow, but so did you refinish this, or was it in pretty
Yes.
good shape?
Oh,
He
You
said
did.
that they refinished this
we
piano.
did that, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's from my cousin.
It,
It was actually from my grandfather.
from your grandfather.
Yes,
Oh, he said this piano's from his grandfather.
Wow.
his time. So after that, my cousin said, I want this piano. Take it home. Okay, and we did the whole.
Does he still want it? He doesn't want it anymore.
No, we just there was some pins were.
Oh, so he was using it.
Yeah.
And you just brought it in to do
just
some
brought it
things.
to make some changes here in the pins.
Oh, he said it's his grandfather's piano that his grandfather was actually using, and he just brought it in there to refurbish it, replace some pins, fix some of the issues with the
Oh,
loose pins.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Bef- Before I go, I want to like take some actual pictures of some of. Do you mind?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, cool. I'll do it later, like after, right before I leave. But it's cool.
Okay.
In touch. Maybe there's some way that we can trips. I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
But wow, you don't know how to keep a right. Oh, the NAM shot. Oh,
Cool. That was quite a long video, so there's a lot of content in there. Is this another one that's that long? Yes, this looks like it's the same video. All right. I think that's pretty much everything. All right, well, we got about 5 minutes left here in the hour, so some interesting stuff. I hope you got a good sense of what it was like to visit his piano shop. And again, I think it's interesting coming across this content again. Maybe it gives us a reason to reach out to him and engage with him. Maybe we'll bring him. Maybe he'd be willing to come on the radio hour sometime soon. Anybody have any questions or comments before we wrap things up? We could wrap it up a couple minutes early here if there's nothing else to chit chat about. Thanks everybody for hanging out this Saturday for Piano Tech Radio Hour again. It was really a pleasure to have you all. Again, this is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. Oh, we got a question in here. Let's see here. Let's see what happened. Johan said, fascinating to see the old bass string winder. He happens to have one that looks exactly the same from Germany. Oh, very cool. Aha, he motorized his and put on a sliding head on the left with adjustable weights attached to control the string tension while winding. The right set extends to full concert grand string length. It also takes him about 15 minutes to make a string. If someone's interested, he will be selling it in some year together with all of the copper sizes. All right, well, we may have a buyer for you. We'll put that put that out on notice here. Donna said, was the rocker action piano faux bois? And if so, what special treatment did he use? I have no idea. Jim Kelly said, very neat session, thanks. When will the next radio hour be? Actually, yeah, that's a good question. So today's the 18th. Next Saturday is the 25th. So yeah, I guess we'll skip Christmas, but I think we can plan on being back here. Let's see, New Year's Day. I'll put out a notice and see if we're going to meet New Year's Day, because it's a possibility we could still meet New Year's Day. I will say definitely we'll be back here on the 8th of January, and if I don't see you guys in between now and then, we'll hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, as well as whatever holidays and fun you'll be having in the meantime. Okay, again, this has been Piano Technician Tech Radio Hour, brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, which is cutting edge instruction for piano industry masters without leaving your home. Thank you all for attending today, and again, I guess we'll see you next year, and we'll hope you have some fun in between. Thanks for joining us today. Catch you later.